Every workplace has two sets of rules. The official ones, the policies, the processes, the org charts. And then there are the real ones. The ones nobody wrote down but that everyone follows anyway. Who gets heard in meetings, what's acceptable to challenge, how performance is really measured, what being a team player means in practice, or what happens when you push back. These unwritten rules shape everything, and most of the time, nobody questions them because questioning them feels risky or presumptuous or like you're just not understanding how things work. Today, we're talking about why questioning norms is a valuable thing for you to do. Norms are the invisible rules that shape how you think, behave, and relate to others. Look, they create a sense of order, predictability, and shared understanding. And they're not always bad. Some norms exist for good reasons. The problem isn't the norms. The problem is unexamined norms. The ones that were created in a different context, for a different time, by people who had a different set of priorities. And they've never ever been revisited. Consider how many workplaces still operate under the norm that productivity means constantly being busy or available. Yeah, been there. Does that really lead to better outcomes? Or does it simply drive burnout, shallow work, and ultimately disengagement? A person who questions that norm and explores what better might look like is often seen as a problem at first, and later as ahead of their time. Challenging norms isn't always comfortable. It can bring resistance from others and from within yourself. It can stir up doubt, especially when you're stepping outside the familiar. There's also a belief many people carry, often unconsciously, that questioning the way things are done is somehow disloyal or naive, perhaps risky to their position. But here's what I've noticed. The norms that never get questioned tend to be the ones that are limiting the organisation the most. Because the people who might have changed them stayed quiet. Because the cost of asking, is this still working, felt too high. The question I want to offer you today isn't, how do I blow everything up? It's much simpler. Is this still serving us? Questioning norms operates at two levels and both matter. The first one is organisational norms. These are the systems and structures, how decisions are made, who gets heard, how performance is measured, and what meetings are for. When these go unexamined, they tend to limit inclusion, creativity, and effectiveness without anyone being able to name exactly why things feel stuck. And the second way is personal norms. These are the rules you've absorbed from society, family, culture, and past experiences. Perhaps you've been taught that success must look a certain way. Maybe that your value is tied to constant achievement. That it's not your place to question people above you. Oh, here's another one. Speaking up is self-promotion. When you begin to notice these inherited beliefs, you give yourself a chance to redefine them and to live and work in a way that feels more aligned to who you are now. Both kinds of questioning take practice. Both are worth doing. Here's the practical bit. Because I know that question the norms can sound like a recipe for conflict. The skill is in how you ask. Not, this is wrong and here's why, More like, I'm curious, why do we do it this way? Is there a reason we haven't tried a different approach? Questions open things, statements close them. And when you frame a norm question with genuine curiosity rather than critique, you almost always get a more open conversation. In my digital guide, Weird Wisdom at Work, the 10 Myths Holding You Back, Myth 2 is specifically about the belief that weird wisdom is disruptive, that challenging things causes problems. The reality is, challenge done well creates better outcomes. The guide gives you specific language for doing this in a way that moves things forward rather than creating that defensiveness you often see. Here's your prompt for this week. Identify one norm in your workplace, something that's just always been done that way, and ask, is this still serving us? You don't have to say it out loud yet, if that feels like too much. Start with yourself. Because the first step to changing a norm is simply being willing to see it. Next video, we're going to be zooming out and talking about what happens when these 5 principles meet real workplace culture. How do you use weird wisdom when you're not in charge? When the culture doesn't support it? When you're the only person in the room who thinks this way? I'll see you then.